There we go. And don't worry, I will chop out any bits at the beginning and end as well for us. Hi, John. So I think hopefully you'll have a few names all popping up on your screens now. And as we go, I will ping around, spotlight different people and change it up as well. So you'll get a few different views throughout. We'll give it 3 more minutes. As soon as we hit 4:05, we'll get going.
Busy day then in the office, Sally?
It has been quite busy. We're having a week of small goals. So we set our first small goal this morning and achieved it as I was running to the end office to join on for this call. So Monday's goal has been achieved. So hopefully that's setting us up for a lovely week.
Excellent. What do you find the benefit is of setting small goals?
It gives us something to celebrate as a team. And I think the small celebrations keep high spirits for a week, which is nice.
Fab.
Yes. How's your day been?
Very good, thank you. I've actually been on with Chris already today, which was pretty exciting. So talking about the East Midlands top 500, and obviously, of course, tomorrow's top 200, which is going to be happening. So yeah, it's interesting to see how much we've got going on as a business community, how much growth there is, but equally actually the powering coming together as the East Midlands. Actually, Chris would obviously be able to tell you more on that, but it's nice to sort of see the different sort of counties coming together because it benefits everybody.
Yeah.
So hopefully if Help to Grow management can help with some the smaller businesses, we'll see some of them hitting the top 200 listing at some point.
I like it.
No pressure.
I'm helping to fill the awkward silence before we get started.
So I've just made a note in my diary. Everyone top 200 list on it.
Yeah.
I was very much enjoying listening to you and Sally and Jenny having a nice little chit chat together. I thought it was very nice.
Well, I can't lie. I was intrigued to know what cake you were eating when you joined.
It's lemon drizzle cake, posh lemon drizzle cake. Somebody brought in for their birthday, so I thought, why not?
Very nice.
Absolutely.
There we go. So I'm very intrigued. So what are your goals for the week then?
We've got different goals. So today was about the amount of customers that we just reached out to, so existing customers. So that's been reached. Tomorrow's one will be set tonight by me, and they will come into something exciting. Yeah, I like to do little challenges. So I think it was Thursday. I had a day at home, and so I wrote a rhyme for the day. So
well, you can't just say you wrote a rhyme for the day and then not tell us the rhyme.
I have to find it. I will WhatsApp it over to you so you can read my rhyme. But every hour and then you've got a new sentence in the rhyme, which it was just encouraging them to do things. So we've got 2 people with the letter T. So it's if you did something and your name began with a letter T, encourage the person who begins with a letter C. So then they'd encourage someone else to do something and around the team.
Great.
So yeah.
Do you find that sort of things helps the team to gel and bond and feel like a team?
Yeah, 100%. And especially if I'm working remotely, it keeps them communicating with me as well, which is key while I'm not here. So yeah, definitely. And now we're a more diverse team. We've got some guys in the office.
What? Really?
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's very, very diverse.
It is.
We'll be recruiting you next, Alistair. We need an FD.
So these chaps then, are they scared to come into the office, or are they quite happy to go into the office?
They love it. They absolutely love being in the office. Yeah, it's great. All right. So obviously I've already hit record, so we'll get ready to start officially then. There may be a few more pop on as we get going. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining on for this afternoon's business panel that we're doing on business growth, and a discussion we have Denisha here, Dr. Denisha Johnson from Leicester Castle Business School. So thank you very much for joining us, Denisha.
Thank you for having me, Sally and Jenny.
No worries at all. We've also got a few extra faces with us this evening. So we've got Chris Kane here from...
Hi, Sally.
Okay. Evening, Chris. We've got Alistair Ferris with us from Tor Waterfield. Good evening, Alistair. And we've got Chris Hobson here from the Chambers.
You know, 2 Chris's, so this will be fun.
And we've got Jenny, who this evening is representing the FSB.
Hello, everyone.
So thank you all for joining us. Obviously, the idea of this event is just to talk a little bit about business growth, particularly within the small business economy, and talk about locally what's going on, what can help, but also some tips or advice or struggles from the people that are on the call to help our business community in aiding their growth. So we've got a few questions that I'll be firing out, and then hopefully for you guys that are joining us and attending this evening, thank you ever so much for coming on. And if you've got any questions you'd like to throw into the mix, please do feel free to pop them into the chat bar, and we'll happily bring those out as we get going as well. So I'm going to kick it straight off, and I'm actually going to start with one of the Chris's. So I'm going to come straight over to Chris Hobson, if that's okay, to begin with. And Chris, I would like to know from yourself, so as the East Midlands Chamber hat with you, what are the main challenges that you actually see small businesses face in relation to growth?
That's a big question, isn't it? Let me try and see if I can focus it in on some of the conversations that I've been having with people most recently. So I think one of the biggest issues, particularly earlier on in a business's life, is cash flow. And I think cash flow is challenged for a number of reasons. Some of it is about poor payment practices and the people that are being worked with. And some of it is about accessing cash from other sources, whether it's looking to invest to grow or for other purposes. So I think one of the biggest reasons why businesses struggle, particularly earlier on, is problems around cash flow. I think looking at something else, lots of businesses will have lots of individuals who are in business will have a great idea or a great concept, and they will be incredibly passionate about that and know it as well as anybody does. But in business, and particularly for smaller businesses, you don't know what you don't know, and so being able to access support or pointers or having a variety of different experience around you to help develop proper growth plans and think strategically, I think is something that is important. But as a barrier, I think sometimes is having the headspace and the capacity to do that thinking. People will often wear, you mentioned my chamber hat, people in a small business will often have many hats, and they'll be doing the HR, the finance, the kind of day-to-day kind of operations, and actually being able to think strategically about some of the bigger opportunities and plot a chart how you get there, I think is a significant challenge for people. And then just one final one, and it's, I think this isn't unique to small businesses at all, but certainly very topical for where we are right now. Unemployment in the region is very, very low. The labour market pool is small. People's workforce's expectations have changed a little bit over the past couple of years in terms of particularly in certain sectors. And so access to the right staff is very difficult. And to link back to cash flow, etc., it's very competitive at the moment as well. And so being able to make yourself stand out to attract people to help you achieve your growth ambitions at the moment is a tricky thing to do. So there's three areas. So cash flow, cash is king, etc. Headspace to do strategic thinking, and then access to the right people. They're the three big things that keep coming in conversations at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, it's really interesting, and I love hearing other people talk about it. I know myself, recruitment has been one of those things this year where I think we've done 3 different rounds of recruitment to get the right person into the business. So yeah, absolutely, definitely. Thank you very much. So I'm going to swing over to Alistair. I'm going to come over to you next, if that's okay. And I would love to know from yourself, how many small businesses you guys see that have a handle on their finances, because we're just talking about cash being king there. And how does having that handle on your finances actually impact your growth as a business?
Sorry, I missed that last little bit.
It's okay. So looking at actually how many small businesses you see that have a handle on their finances, and how does it actually impact their growth? So understanding that. Yeah.
Firstly, I thought that was a fantastic answer, Chris, and I think you covered a lot of my thoughts on what's going on in the local area. As for businesses having a handle on their cash, I think with the change in a lot of how people are doing their accounting these days, particularly a lot of the online packages such as Xero, which is the one that we sort of champion, that we're seeing people manage their cash a lot better now using these systems. It's a lot more up to date and available. And in general terms, I do find that a lot of, I can only speak for the clients that I deal with, that they have quite a good handle on their cash, to be honest. What they sometimes struggle with is sort of planning ahead. And I think, going back to what Chris says about having the headspace to actually think about what's going to happen down the road, they probably have a reasonable idea that they've got taxes to pay, their overhead costs, their running costs, but often if they want to grow, and that being forecast out, I think is the biggest issue for their, controlling their cash. They want to grow, and you've got to take more staff on. Are they planning ahead? Are they managing their finances in terms of that? Is probably more of an issue than their day-to-day cash management, which I think is not too bad for a lot of my clients. And I don't know whether you often find that clients gravitate to similar sort of people. Personally, I'm very good with my cash, and I think you have a rapport with people, in your portfolio. And I hope all the accounts are good with cash, obviously. But I think that's my thing, is not managing the cash today, but tying into what Christy says, that headspace to plan forward and building up a reserve to then invest in the future, or having good enough numbers to access better cash flow, better funding, better lending. So does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. And so I think it is so important having that handle on it. And as you say, it's planning what you can invest in the future and how you can then use that to grow the business. So fantastic. And I have to say, thank you to Chris here, because your leading answer is absolutely setting us up into some of these following questions. So I really do appreciate it. And it's also going to lead me into the next one. And Alistair also just touched on this, but when we talk about business growth, I'm actually going to come round to Dr. Denisha Johnson. And one thing I would love to say is, obviously we've got Denisha with us this evening. She's actually the headline sponsor for the Niche Business Awards as well this year with Leicester Castle Business School, and also is the director for the Help Grow programme, which we'll hear a little bit more about in the school. So Denisha, I'm going to come over to you next, if that's possible. And I would like to know from yourself, what do you think drives the growth of small businesses?
I think at this point in time, small businesses are expected to, they were always having to keep a lot of plates spinning. And I think now it becomes down to whether or not you have a good cross-sectional view of all of the plates. I think there's less of people becoming, experts or working in a silo in their business. I think now you have to have more and more a bigger grasp of everything that's happening and how they interconnect. So even the sort of points that that Chris made and Alistair is that around this idea of, yes, you need to build up your cash reserves. You want to say you want to grow, but specifically, what are those areas you want to grow in? Taking that time to bring out those strategic spaces, and then deciding where you want to put that investment in particular, I think is a main thing. So I think sometimes it's about even making that decision of what is the best next step for your organization to drive that particular growth strategy that you're looking for. So is it in people? Is it about training the staff that you currently have now? Is it about deciding exactly what you might want to bring on new talent to do? Because the last thing you want to do is recruit the wrong person and they're not going to meet the particular target that you may have set for your organization. So I think there is, even the idea of purpose of your organization in this time. So you may have been doing something 2 years ago, then the world sort of took a turn. So what you're doing now is very different. Have you spent the requisite time understanding what your purpose is as an organization and what customers you're now going to start to reach in particular? So, it's taking that time to ask those larger strategic questions, I think. And then once you start to understand that, that's when you start to put in these implementation strategies around operations, around finance. And then you start to learn from that implementation process, what you might need to tweak on that front end, and that iterative nature as well, that you're moving from one thing, it's not linear. You need to go back and think about it. Something may have happened that then brings you back to that other point in time. So.
I absolutely love it. Thank you very much. So about, as you say, having that plan, but it's not just a what, but when as well in that plan that it has.
Yeah, timing is absolutely key to it. Even thinking about something like succession planning for your organization, you have to plan for that. That's not and that's one of the things we do notice sometimes. You ask about it, you're like, oh yeah, I plan to retire in 10 years. Or maybe next year. Okay, well, what's your plan for that? So even thinking about how you're going to have the right skills in place to replace you when you've gone, moved on to your next to greener pastures, perhaps. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. So I'm going to flip it now as well, because I think we've talked a little bit about the finance and also a bit about the planning at this point. But I would like to come over to Chris Kane next of Kazoo, who's with us. And Chris, my question for yourself is, because you work specifically in IT, and what have you seen or noticed in regards to IT and how it actually can hinder the growth of businesses? So what have you noticed for hindering growth, but also what is there to enable growth?
A lot of people look at IT as an expense, and it's not necessarily an expense if you invest in it correctly. So we always speak about, again, you go back to the planning, it's like, what do you want from your IT system? Because until we understand what you actually need, you can't plan for it. You've got to get it right. So yes, there is a cost, but actually it might make you more efficient going forward. So you have to sort of weigh that in. And we've been working a lot recently with IT lease finance companies. So cash flow, again, what we mentioned earlier, is key, and it's a way of keeping that cash a small amount, paying it regularly, but actually you've had a massive improvement in your IT systems.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that option there as well. And when we talk about planning out, the idea of leasing and spreading a cost rather than an upfront, if you're getting into your nitty gritty and your forecast and everything like that, knowing those elements and being able to plan it in, again, can help with the structural changes you can make in a business. So
yeah, again, it goes back to knowing your numbers from the beginning. So it all what we've mentioned, everything leads on, and we said it goes around in circles. You need your IT, you need your finance, you need your plans. Without any of those, I'm not saying you're destined to fail, because that's completely wrong, but have it written down, have a goal to achieve, which is what you said earlier, mini goals, work towards those.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you very much. So I'm going to swing it all the way around now. I think we've got one member with us on the panel this evening that hasn't spoke as of yet, been directed. So Jenny, if I can come over to yourself, please. In regards to wearing your FSB hat this evening, what I would love to know from yourself is, what does the FSB see as the main challenge around growth with small businesses?
So the FSB have argued that the UK's productivity challenge needs practical changes to be able to help small businesses to improve their operations and to drive efficiency and, of course, growth. So this means more of a sort of, I guess, new to firm sort of grip and approach for innovation. Things such as small businesses accessing things such as the cloud, where currently I think less than half, I think it's about 40% of small businesses use the cloud. So that's still a hell of a lot of businesses that aren't accessing that. Things such as management skills, creating access to funding for so that they can access business schools, which, to be fair, the fact that this programme that Denisha is the director of is 90% funded by the government. That sort of access is massive to small businesses. So I think you're finding at the moment, that's the real game changer for many. So currently only staff from around 20% of small firms actually access this sort of funding, which, you know, I think a lot of it comes down, you don't know what you don't know. People don't know the funding's there, they don't know the access is there, you know, they're just not reaching it. So that's what we would be saying.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to just continue on this because I can see it's been a common theme through some of the answers that we're looking at the moment. So I'm going to bring it all the way back round to Alistair and actually back onto just the cash flow a little bit more before we probably sway on topic a bit. But Alistair, in regards to, obviously, cash flow is often a challenge for small businesses, and it can be a real issue when they're trying to grow and a challenge when they're trying to grow. Mm-hmm. What advice would you actually give to a small business to help them with thinking about the cash flow, or what can they do?
Well, for me, I mean, the first thing you've got to do is do your planning. You know, you've got to sit down and actually do a proper financial plan. You know, work out your overheads, you know, your step fixed costs as your costs rise. Do you need a bigger place? You know, what staff do you need? You know, and actually put a proper good plan together. Because without putting that really good plan together, then you can't really then look at what your cash flow is going to be like. And then you can always tailor that to your, you know, what industry you're in, what your payment terms are likely to be, and actually sit down and properly work out. Because the amount of businesses that get caught out by that is frightening, really. You know, they'll take on a big order and not really, and just not think that their new customers pays in 90 days. You know, it's very simple, you know, planning that people need to do, because there's a lot of places out there where you can access cash. You know, you genuinely can. You know, if you can put a really good plan together, there's lots of funding out there. You know, the funding circle, and lots of people out there will listen to you. But you've got to do your homework and have a really good plan. You know, and then set out. I mean, it's about planning. You know, fail to plan, plan to fail. I mean, it's a very, very true you know, thing to say, really. You know, there's nothing better when somebody sits down with me and say, right, I've got this business idea and I've put this plan together, and you just look at it and you think, brilliant. You know, you're number one, you're dealing with somebody who's actually thought about it, and two, they're credible. You know, that's important for somebody in business to be credible, that they're going to have that ability then to deliver that plan. You know, and that's be through to customers, suppliers, you know, people they employ, you know, credibility. So that's my thing. Always plan, properly plan, and then come to me like me, go to the bank and sit down and then put it out there, you know, and hopefully, you know, we should see some success. That's what I've seen in general.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to swing back round to actually one of our Chris's as well now. So I'm going to come back over to Chris Hobson, please. And Chris, I wanted to look at, in regards to small businesses, one of the things we can try and do is reduce outgoings. And Alice just touched on that there when we talk about what recruitment do we need, what do we need, what's in our business plan. But I was doing some research before this, so I was having a read through some of the bits on the Chambers website and what they can do. But for wearing your Chambers hat, how can the Chambers look really to support businesses with growth and trying to reduce those outgoings?
Yeah, I mean, so every business is different, and it's difficult to give big general sweeping advice on this. What I'd say is to pick up on, I think, a point that Jenny was making. There's a lot of support out there and experts out there, and it was really interesting listening to Alistair actually in his previous answer. So one port of call that I would strongly recommend a small business to go to would be the Growth Hub, the Business Gateway in Leicester and Leicestershire, where there are experts and advisors on there who can ask some basic information in the first instance, and then point you towards all sorts. Again, as I said, there's all sorts of funding options out there. There's all sorts of subsidized courses or training out there. And there's all sorts of networks out there. And I think actually one of the best things that people can do is to present themselves to one, to someone that's connected into this infrastructure, and then let them be guided in terms of actually, this is a really useful conversation to have with person A over here or person B over there. And then the second point to that, again, to come back to networking and building connections. I think one of the great things about my job, and I'm sure Jenny sees this, I'm sure everyone sees this also in what they do, is when you put yourself out there and you go to different events or different sessions, and fingers crossed we'll be doing more of that in person in the future, because that's something that I personally missed. The amount of conversations you can have with someone where a seed will get planted or an idea might get sparked, and it might be that nothing happens with it initially, but down the line will lead to an opportunity or a piece of work or a connection that will help you develop something. It happens all the time. I see it happen all the time. Yeah, so many examples. And again, I'm sure Jenny will be able to say likewise. And I know it sounds like too much of a basic answer, but putting yourself out there as a small business, or it's through the chamber or FSB or whoever, there's lots of other organizations out there, and to start meeting to other people, talk to other people, sharing ideas, sharing frustrations, it really, really does help in a very tangible way. So apologies if that's too much of a basic answer, but I'd really underline that because I just because I see it happen all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfectly brilliant answer actually. And I know that everybody on here I've met at an event at one time or another and been able to have conversations. And I know from a small business point of view with ourselves, it's having those conversations and being surrounded by people that have been through that journey already. You can get some of the best advice and make some of the best connections along that journey that you can use an ear to talk to and have there as well. So definitely. And yeah, with the Growth Hub, I know I've done some courses as well. So some brilliant bits out there. So no, thank you very much. So I'm going to swing over then to actually Chris Kane with us again. I know you are a regular networker in the Leicester business circuit. So I'm going to come back over to you, but I want to bring it back to IT again as well, because I just think it's an interesting aspect of how it really can aid growth. And I'd like to know from yourself, how do you think IT can actually empower small businesses' productivity?
If you look after your IT, like I say, in the right way, I'm not just on about for advertising, but if you've got a great system in place, you can automate stuff. So, example, if you've got a great CRM system, it will send regular emails. Yeah, you can use LinkedIn, Instagram, all those social media platforms, but there are tools you're only posting once and it will do it across all platforms. So again, he's speaking to the experts, getting their think on how you can do stuff. You're right, yeah, I do prefer the in-person networking, and I do, because I just like to speak to people and, have a conversation and a little story. But there are tools out there to make things just so simple, so you're not doing things 4 or 5 times, you're doing it once. So yeah, it just makes things a lot easier for you.
Fabulous, thank you. And again, yes, we can use all these tools, and actually it's then being able to stay connected and have that IT person behind us that can keep us on those platforms so we can embrace into the digital world as well as that carries on evolving. So no, absolutely fabulous. Jenny, if I can swing over to yourself for the next question. And question from myself is, how can small businesses innovate themselves for business growth?
Innovation comes in all shapes and sizes. So I think I've got to say, it comes down to thinking outside the box and actually allowing small businesses don't allow themselves time to sit and think. And the issue being, you know, most of the best ideas and the smartest sort of ways forward come from thinking. It's taking that time out to sort of do that. Every small business owner you speak to will say, I don't have time, because they are wearing so many hats. Like Chris had said earlier, you know, small business owners wear multiple hats. But actually that strategic thinking is where the magic happens. And you see that across the board, which is why it's so important to sort of take that time out and sort of, you know, almost hold yourself accountable for having a bit of thinking time. So innovation, that comes from thinking time. There's not sort of one area in which you can innovate. You can innovate in every single way possible, but it's strategically thinking about forward planning. What are we actually trying to achieve? How can we achieve that? Is there a better way of doing that? So it's just time, and that will come down to planning. Plan the time out, plan it in your diary, default diary, plan time.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to sort of follow on from a point that Jenny made there in terms of the types of innovation. You know, most people tend to think it's these massive game-changing things, when actually sometimes it's just process innovation. Do it better. Cut out a few steps. Yes, it might be what Chris, I think it's IT Chris, was talking about. It might be around, you know, simplifying those processes, giving somebody back several hours in their day that they would have spent doing something, and changing that process and having them do something else in the business. It might be, again, around your business model. You might have to innovate because you were providing your service or product in one way, and now you do it in a different way. So I think it's that with things, you know, it's not massive things. It might just be little tiny tweaks, and several of those little incremental tweaks are going to make the difference at the end of the day for your organization as well.
No, thank you very much. And actually, while you're speaking there, I'm going to come back over to you as well, Denisha, if that's okay. So obviously from Leicester Castle Business School's point of view, currently, what are you guys offering? And I know I touched on this earlier, but to come to the professional now and hear it from you, what is the school offering at the moment to small businesses that can help with their growth?
So at the moment, we are offering the Help to Grow program, which is 90% funded by HMT and BASE, which is Business, Energy and Industry Strategy Department. The course itself is, I want you to think of it as it's a sort of strategic thinking space. We're going to take you across sort of 4 parts of the course, and each of those are going to have you look at different sections of your business. So you start off with those sort of big thinking aspects around growth strategies and digital transformation and digital skills for your organization. You start to move into understanding your customers, and then you start to think about how do you set up your organization, be that through the hardware, i.e. the actual structures of the business and how you're going to work, and then also recruiting the right people into that organization. And then you start to move into the implementation phase of things, which again are around operations and financial strategies. Now, the really good thing about it, and I will say it's a nice thing that's sort of connecting a few points made by the other panelists, is that the main artifact that you're going to come off this program with is a growth action plan. And that requires you to develop, as you go through the sort of 12 modules on the course, you will complete different sections of that plan. So that goes to 1, around the issues of credibility, but then also it starts to show that you actually have good judgment as a business owner or a senior manager in your organization as well. And that's something that you can then start to take out to other organizations such as the Chambers or FSB or the Growth Hub to show that you've put in this level of work and detail into your organization. And so it's a great starting point and platform for you to take. So don't think of it as something you're completing while you're on our course. It's something that should go and evolve and change with you, with your organization. Another way that we plan to help support you with that growth action plan once you come off the 12 weeks is that actually you get to join the National Alumni Network. So I actually, in addition to being program director for Leicester Castle Business School, I'm actually seconded to the Small Business Charter and BASE to set up that National Alumni Program. So one of the things that we're looking at is taking that growth action plan and making sure businesses are actually implementing it, looking at the challenges, looking at the facilitators, and all of that is going to be supported through peer-to-peer networking, as well as the expertise at the business schools. And just to go back a little bit to the course as well, I want to point out a couple of different things. In addition to the new knowledge you're going to be introduced into your organization, there's a massive amount of peer support as well. So while you might be online with me delivering some material to you, or one of our executive education trainers, you then get broken up into small groups where you can work in small pods with other senior managers and understand how they're handling challenges, how they frame things, and getting that different perspective. And again, putting your ideas on your business through its paces and really testing it to see where the weaknesses are, the questions you can't answer, the questions you should be able to answer. And lastly, you'll also get 10 hours of mentoring as well. So if you've never had a mentor before, you didn't know if it was for you, or you just didn't think I had it in the budget, 10 hours of mentoring come automatically alongside this course as well. So it's a good opportunity to start to really get down to the fine-grained detail that you want to, and some of those more sensitive issues on a one-to-one basis with an experienced business owner as well, who can really direct you and where you want to go. Yeah.
Can I just ask one question? Is that all right, Sally? Well, I think I know the answer, but just to confirm, Denisha, it costs, so it's 90% subsidized, which is amazing. I think a lot of people don't appreciate that. I think it's too good. The actual cost in pounds to a participant is
£750 for the entire course. That's £62.50 a week.
which if you think about what you're getting,
yeah,
£750 is amazing. And I think a lot of people just don't appreciate it, or think it's too, there must be some catch. And it's always worth underlining that, I think, because that isn't, of course it's £750 and you need to commit your time. But after hearing what Denisha's just explained, you get out of it, it's fantastic value.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think each can, and I have, I see my participants, they're interested in very specific aspects of it. Some of them are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed to do this. They really love the workbook. So even, I haven't even told you about the virtual learning environment where everything's posted up and there are workbooks and additional resources. So people come each week with their workbooks completed, that they can sit down and work through different sections of their plans with guided frameworks and so forth. You're also facilitated in the sense that we have one of our entrepreneurs in residence. They take you and shepherd you through that entire course as well, to kind of get to know where your challenges are. They keep you motivated, they keep you on point and paced and so forth, yeah. I
think as well, and I'll jump in and add here. So I actually came on the pilot scheme with the Leicester Business School for the Help to Grow programme. And it was absolutely instrumental to myself in my role at the business. And since then, I've gone on into further education, because actually what I was taking away from that course and practical elements I could implement was huge. And the two bits that stood out, well, there was a few bits that stood out for me. I can't even define it down to two, but there was the learning from real business experts. So it's not just lecturers and educators, but people that have been through that journey as well. So they're able to share real insight stories. There was the peer network that you gain from that. And it's not just on the course, but that continues afterwards. And the other thing that I love, and I mention it every time I come on anything with Denisha, and I know Jen will smile here as well, but it was using one of the hierarchies where you're just taking that step back to look at your business. And that's something not only they teach, but it's used in FTSE 500 businesses to help them go through growth as well. So having some of those tools and being educated on them, because I'd never ever come across it until I did this course, and now I come across it in many different fields and recognize it. So the bits that you learn have just been instrumental for me personally. And I know Jen does some delivering on the course, and you've been doing some mentoring as well. So I mean, Jen, would you like to jump in and talk about the course at all as well there?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is, our business is 9 next month. And if the one thing that if I could roll back and change would be that we got some help with a business plan at the word go, because the business just almost ran. It was more of a lifestyle business, which was great. However, then when COVID hit, you're not set up to ride the storm. And if we'd have had a plan in place a number of years ago, we'd have been in a completely different field. So I think, the thing about having a business plan is it really does see you through the different sort of changes in the economy, in the world. From a business point of view, yeah, I actually did, the lady that's my mentee, so I deliver one of the modules, but I also mentor someone, and the lady that I see actually lives in Lincolnshire, so we've been online, but we met this morning for a couple of hours before she did her face-to-face in the castle. And it was great, the feedback actually. I've got it to send over. In fact, I think I've shared it with you, Denise, already, but feedback was brilliant. What she actually learned, what she's taken from it, the value that she's got from it. So it was nice to sort of, you know, ask her openly, you know, what's your honest feedback on it? What do you think? And she'd said that she was happy for us to sort of share that. So I'll be pinging it over to Sian at some point as well for her to sort of get her hands on. But it's nice to see people come through this journey, you know, and the questions that they're asking, the challenges that they're facing, and how they're actually implementing stuff physically during the course itself. You know, it's like there's certain bits that they just can't wait to go and implement. You know, I want to see how this changes things. And obviously you can't do it all at once. I mean, you're talking a 2-3 year plan with a lot of it. There is so much that you learn, but it's a game changer. But yeah, it is hilarious because Sally learned about that hierarchy and she literally uses it in life now with everything. There's not a conversation we have that doesn't reference back to this hierarchy.
I just want to pick up on one of the points that Sally made in terms of, you know, the university being a resource as well, because I know some people think, oh, it's a university and we're over there. But I really want people to start to think of universities. We have 3 missions, and one of those missions is to carry what we know out to the public, out to industry, especially business schools. We, you know, 1 in 7 students who sign up are in business schools. You know, we're usually the public face of the university, and we have academics with different skill sets. So you have your industry facing, knowledge exchanging type academics like myself. We want to be out there with the businesses. We want you all to use the services that we have, that some of them are funded, that you can access different things. So I kind of just wanted to highlight that a little bit, that, you know, we are, and, you know, DMU, it's a bit more of a sort of local vibes university. You know, so it's just to encourage people to come in and see what we have to offer. I think it's a really helpful one.
Absolutely. And I think as well then, so I will just say again, for our attendees that have joined us this evening, if you've got any questions, then please do pop them in the chat box and I'll happily bring them out to the panel now. But to kind of round it off, I'd like to just do a sweep around the room and just, I know I've fired a few questions, but just relate back, and it will probably cover what you've already mentioned, but that top 1 gold bit of information from yourself, planning for business growth. What's the number 1 top tip priority that you would give to a business? So if I can come to Chris Kane first.
Thanks, Ali. Again, I think the biggest thing for me, and I do it myself, is have a plan. Even if it's a 30-day plan, a 90-day plan, know what you want to do and then, you know, try and achieve it, but have something, even if it's a visual thing, so you can see it every day and head towards that little goal. Fabulous.
Thank you very much. Alistair?
Well, Chris has stole my thunder there, because I mean, and I think we'll all probably say a similar thing. It's about planning. I mean, slightly differently, but I studied at De Montfort University Night School when I did my ACCA some time ago now. But I say that extra bit of learning, training. You know, the reason I did the ACCA, I had a business myself at the time, and I wanted to learn more and understand. And it's vital to encourage people to, you know, keep learning. You know, there's stuff you learn every day in business, you know, different ways of doing things. You never stop learning. So yes, plan, but also keep your mind open, I think, is vital, and ask for help and support. So yeah, that's me on that.
Brilliant. I love that. Chris Hobson.
Yeah, to pick up on that last point actually about keeping your mind open, so I said it earlier, to network, and I think to network freely, but do that with an open mind. Look to make useful connections. Don't go in with go in with an open mind. I think in terms of the types of opportunity, the amount of seeds to get planted, and that you end up reaping rewards of kind of maybe a little later down the line. Again, see it happen all the time. So I think put yourself out there, And sometimes, and it sounds silly, that sometimes networking isn't an easy thing for people to do. Some people are natural at it, and like ducks to water. Other people find it a bit more difficult, but everyone's in the same boat. So go in with, and people are there to be friendly and to help, so trust in that and put yourself out there, and good things will come of it.
Brilliant. Jenny?
I would say planning time to think. So, just taking, obviously as a small business, we've got 16 in our business. So as a small business owner, as opposed to the FSB here, every single person within the company, part of their KPIs is to take 1 hour every week to just think. And it doesn't matter if they're drinking gin or they're walking in the park, it's just to think. But that is where so many of our best ideas come. It's effectively 16 hours that get shared within the company of sort of think time each week, and that's where some of the best stuff's come from. But don't be afraid to ask. So we always say there's no such thing as a silly question. So if businesses are going out and doing the networking and meeting other people, they are the best people to be learning from. So take advantage of what opportunities are there. So there is funding available, there is education on hand, there are other people that are happy to share their knowledge with you. Don't be afraid to ask. If you're thinking it, the likelihood is someone else is also thinking it. So ask the question.
Thank you. And Tanisha?
I would say, I was going to say expert advisory council, but I think we touched on that a little bit. I would say look for one new piece of knowledge each week. I would say if that's the form of a strategic framework or something like that to help you sort of focus and center your thoughts, something to build what you're thinking around, rather than, because if you're anything like me, I have, my thoughts are very connective, so you can get sidetracked. I think that finding some sort of new piece of knowledge or framework that's sort of centered that is going to help you with what I would call personal mastery, which is around your personal development and focus and how you develop your ideas and so forth in your business. If I were to recommend one, I would say a business model canvas would be a useful one. It's a good distilled down version of your business plan, which can be a multiple page document, and you don't have time to be checking through that all the time. Whereas a canvas, it's one sheet of paper, it's 9 sections, looks at the core sections of the business and helps you understand how each of those things are interacting at any given point in time. So that would be my piece of advice.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And I will finish off. I'll do my own piece of advice actually at the end. The one piece of advice I would have is asking somebody else that question, because the one thing that's very apparent in this community and with the resources we have is people are happy to give up their time to answer a question for you. So on that note, thank you all for actually giving up your time to come on and do this panel this afternoon. But there have been some great resources and aids that are available that have been just touched on throughout this as well. So yeah, asking someone in the business community, you never know what that might open an opportunity or a door to. So that would be the bit from me.
Can I just add something, Sally? Just to point out, I suppose I didn't, I'm thinking back to all the things that I've said so far. One of the things you should know is that Help to Grow is run over, it's initially was supposed to be run for 3 years until 2024. We've actually extended our funding until 2025 because the program's doing so well. So that also gives your business the opportunity to grow and so forth. But the idea is that we're going to be reaching 30,000 participants across the 4 nations on this course. So completing the course, joining our alumni network in terms of the local events, the regional events, the national events that we're going to be having, that's going to expand your network more than you may have anticipated that you'd be able to do. So I think that's a really a useful one to think about in terms of where you might be able to do business and different perspectives, mindsets, etc., from across the 4 nations.
No, 100%. Thank you very much. Well, I want to say thank you ever so much then for our panelists for coming on this evening and joining us for this. We will be sharing it on social media, and I'll ensure actually when we do that we pop in some dates for the next cohorts of Help to Grow that are coming up as well. But please do feel free to share it out with others, and yeah, let's spread some of them top tips to aid business growth in our community. So thank you very much, guys.
We actually have 2 dates.
2 days.
March 24th.
We will share them both.
March 24th and April 24th. And I'd also like to point out, actually, Chris's organization is currently sponsoring the 10% if you fall into the correct Community Renewal Fund target areas as well. So in addition to the 90%, you might be able to get the 10% funded as well. So really, thank you so much to the Chamber, and thank you so much to Diane, Vicky, and Rebecca, who are spearheading that particular initiative. It's been great for us at the business schools to see that you guys understand what we're doing and are putting your faith in us as well. So thank you so much for that.
Not a problem. And just to confirm, so that's for any business based in the city of Leicester.
Yes, so it's there are a couple of different areas. There's an application form that's available, and it sets out the specific area. But yes, Leicester City is covered in there, and a couple of other areas as well.
Darbs and Notts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely fabulous, and I love it because I wouldn't have known that without coming on the call this evening. So it's those little bits and actually the support that is completely available in our community. So absolutely brilliant to see that collaboration, and yeah, excited to share it with everybody. So we'll be getting it out ASAP so that everybody can have a watch and yeah, get signed up. So, but thank you again. So obviously, thank you. We've got Denisha with us this evening from Leicester Castle Business School, who is also our headline sponsor actually for the Niche Awards. And I know we've got a couple of our sponsors on here as well. So thank you guys. And just again, thank you for taking the time out to join us on this panel this evening.
Thank you.
Sure, bye.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Very good.
Brilliant. I'm going to stop the recording as well. But again, obviously, I know we've got a couple of guys on here. If you do wish to unmute and ask any questions, I will stop recording now. So you are welcome and not being recorded to ask